Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Chris Berezanski from Communications and Engagement at the City of Edmonton. Andre Corbald, City Manager with the City of Edmonton, Mickey Ruth, Chair of the Edmonton Police Commission, and EPS Chief Dale McPhee are here to talk about work our organizations are doing to enhance community safety. We'll hear first from Andre Corbald, followed by Mickey Ruth, and then Chief McPhee. Reporters attending virtually will have the opportunity to ask questions after opening remarks by our speakers. And now to the City Manager.
Good afternoon. Particularly today when we are talking about building a more inclusive city, I think it's appropriate to take a moment and recognize where we are. The City of Edmonton acknowledges the traditional land on which we live is in Treaty 6 territory. We would like to thank the diverse Indigenous peoples whose ancestors' footsteps have marked this territory for centuries. The Cree, Dene, Saulteaux, Nakota Sioux, and Blackfoot peoples. We also acknowledge that this is the Métis homeland and the home of one of the largest communities of Inuit south of the 60th parallel. It is a welcoming place for peoples who come from around the world to share Edmonton as a home. And together, we call upon all our collective, honored traditions and spirits to work in building a great city for today and for future generations. When you think about Edmonton, you may envisage a collection of buildings, a network of parks and roads, a selection of restaurants, cultural events, and social pursuits. All of these things help make our city a wonderful place, but none of these would exist without the people who live here. Edmonton is many things, but first and foremost, it's its people. What we accomplish together is built on the relationships we have with one another. When more of us have the opportunity to live, belong, access, create, preserve, and thrive, all Edmontonians benefit. What we have heard from last summer's public hearings and the Community Safety and Wellbeing Task Force is that some Edmontonians are in pain. We listened as fellow Edmontonians describe situations that brought suffering, tears, and anger. We listened as they generously shared their lived experiences, described terrible memories, and explained the personal impacts of those experiences. We listened as they brought their entire lives forward, not for themselves, but for others, to help all of us in our community. The task force was a catalyst for us to look at the organization's work in a more integrated way. We recognize that it is one very important source of wisdom within a larger ecosystem of community safety. This system includes the Anti-Racism Advisory Committee, End Poverty Edmonton, REACH, other agencies, and insight we receive from many public engagements. We also listened to our city employees, bus drivers who have been subjected to hateful language from passengers because they wear a turban on the job, 311 operators who are harangued by callers because they have an accent or told to go back to their home country. Staff who are Jewish or Muslim wondering whether they are safe on our streets. Employees being assigned to review a file only for the customer to ask for someone with a different kind of name. And enforcement officers who receive malicious comments, including threats of harm due to their gender, diverse appearance, and their choice of a career. City staff are part of the community, and they can be victims of the same circumstances faced by other Edmontonians. And all Edmontonians deserve better. We listened to the community and looked at what is happening around us. We only need to look to recent events at malls, at mosques, on flagpoles, and on the street to know that actions and words are hurting our neighbors. We listened and learned that the individual experiences are not just one-offs. There's a pattern and there is a problem. And now with insights from many groups who shared their stories, we're moving forward with greater focus, speed, and commitment. On behalf of administration, let me say to the task force and to all the people that came forward that we heard you, and we do believe you. And we believe that by addressing these systemic issues, all Edmontonians will benefit from your courage. As guided by Connect Edmonton, we want Edmonton to be a healthy city, a neighborly city that embodies and promotes equity for all Edmontonians. When people feel safe, empowered, and supported as individuals, they are better able to connect with and enrich our community as a whole. The city plan shows us the way to get there, which is to be inclusive and compassionate. As a city, this means that we must make efforts to improve equity, to end poverty, eliminate racism, and make genuine progress towards truth and reconciliation. Much of the work that is already underway does give me confidence in our collective ability to respond to the calls of action we have heard. Alongside the Anti-Racism Advisory Committee, the city recently launched a new anti-racism grant program with $300,000 for youth, nonprofit, and local grassroots organizations to develop anti-racism projects and events. The city's Indigenous framework has been launched, and it guides staff on their journey of reconciliation and relationship building with Indigenous peoples. The city's diversity and inclusion framework is underway with 75 actions to foster diversity, equity, skill, and growth across our organization. The city's policy on accessibility for people with disabilities is in place, with actions to ensure people with disabilities are treated with respect, have equitable access, and have opportunities to participate and contribute to the fullest extent in their city. And the city has been including the practice of Gender-Based Analysis Plus, or GBA Plus, into all of our ongoing work. As we look forward, the City of Edmonton, the Edmonton Police Service, and the Edmonton Police Commission have partnered to review recent progress, identify current actions, and outline new efforts that can be taken within the next 90 days. We have set a strategic course towards a safer, more diverse, and more inclusive future with a new joint work plan. This plan seeks to enhance community safety, well-being, inclusion, and anti-racism with nearly 70 actions across the following 4 themes. First, it's a system integration and coordinated response to make sure that the right resources are deployed at the right time and in the right place. Second, organizational cultures to intentionally build more diverse workspaces, workforces, and embed diversity and inclusion content in all of our training. Third, social responsibility to assess the impact of actions on communities and commit to openness and transparency. Fourth, prevention and support to reduce the instances where vulnerable people come into contact with the justice system when what they need is understanding, support, and very targeted services. In addition to this Safer for All work plan, the Recover Urban Wellness Report, and the Joint Dispatch Model business case both detail specific next steps to advance some of these actions. While there remains a great deal of work to do, we believe that Edmonton is working in good faith to navigate this path. With the ongoing collaboration of partners, we will continue moving forward together to co-create a city that is safer for all. It's important to note that the 3 related reports we will be presenting to Council on June 30th capture what we can do quickly while we continue to work on a larger plan to present to Council in early 2022. This is only the start of a broader commitment. As our efforts become more compassionate and inclusive, city will be ongoing. Beyond what we'll do next, this process is about who we want to be. We must be inclusive and compassionate as we listen to those who are in pain so that we can continue to build a healthy city for the benefit of all Edmontonians. And I would like to now welcome Mickey Ruth, Chair of the Edmonton Police Commission, to share her comments.
Thank you, Mr. Coolboard, and good afternoon, everyone. The Commission is pleased to have participated with the City and the Police Service in the development of the Safer for All report. I also want to thank the task force for their hard work and passion in bringing their views forward. The heartfelt and honest sharing of personal experiences demonstrated a true commitment to facilitate real change. We are committed to working with the community to reduce systemic racism and towards a new model of collaboration that increases understanding, increases empathy, increases trust, and enhances community safety in a positive and meaningful way. By bringing systems and programs together in a strategic way, we will help realize the goal of building safer communities. We must focus on programming for health, mental health, housing, addiction treatment, and poverty to reduce the demand for policing services by moving people away from interactions with the justice system and into programs that can deliver results. We are pleased to include in the report recognition that the Edmonton Police Commission started down this path to positive change in 2018 by hiring a chief who reflected our goal of realizing a new direction for policing through partner-focused, outcome-based initiatives. Now, this type of forward-looking change will be sustained not only by this chief, but by those who come after. The Commission has also been an advocate for system integration to reduce silos. Accordingly, we are very happy to see progress towards an integrated call evaluation and dispatch model. Thank you for coming today, and we look forward to your questions. Chief McPhee.
Thank you, Chair Ruth and Mr. Corbould. The needs of Edmontonians are changing, and so is the role of policing. Though change is inevitable, one fundamental piece remains: the Edmonton Police Service is here to protect and serve, and we do so with the intent of making Edmonton a safer place for all of our citizens. But as many of you have told us, safety means something different to everyone. Our members work tirelessly to make our uniform a symbol of trust and confidence. However, we recognize that not all experiences are the same, especially when it comes to police and navigating the Edmonton's social safety net ecosystem. The Safer for All work plan represents a commitment to those experiences and identifies tangible steps towards better outcomes for Edmontonians. Most importantly, the plan emphasizes an integrated approach. It looks at what actions we can build on to make the largest and most impactful change in our community. The key word in this plan is work. This is not another report that will get shelved and collect dust. The plan brings EPS together with the City of Edmonton, the Edmonton Police Commission, and our community partners to continue to addressing equity, inclusion, and racism in our city. Not next year, not 3 years from now, but immediately. We are fortunate to have already laid a solid foundation for the future. At the EPS, this looks like building on the success of our new Community Safety and Wellbeing Bureau, dedicated to diverting those in need away from the criminal justice system. And with Vision 2020 now fully implemented, we are well on our way to reducing service demands through balanced support and enforcement. Our critical next step includes evaluation to ensure we are progressing alongside our partners towards collective outcomes. Throughout this all, we remain dedicated to engaging with Edmontonians, be it through our commitment to action or various community councils, as we remain dedicated to building awareness with the public through campaign and education campaigns such as Know Your Rights initiative. But let me be clear, the plan is a commitment to push further. This does not mean the work is done. In fact, it means that we're just getting started. I am proud of the collaboration that has gone on into this plan and the many brave voices who have come forward to share their experiences, including the Community and Safety Wellbeing Task Force. I am also proud and humbled by those I have the privilege of leading at EPS. Their professionalism, the dedication are what allows us to keep building and looking into the future. The tasks outlined in this plan cannot be achieved in isolation. Building a continuum of services that prevents citizens from being overlooked and falling through the cracks takes teamwork. And above all, it takes joint accountability. We recognize that community safety and well-being does not belong to a single organization. We all have a role to play in shaping the future of our community. Police are the connector that brings countless people and organizations together. The EPS will continue to work with our partners in building a recovery-oriented system, leveraging local solutions, data and research to bridge gaps. our work does not end here. It is up to us and all of those in the social safety net ecosystem to continue looking toward innovative ways to align resources and create a system where all citizens feel safe and to be clear that no one is left behind. Thank you, and we look forward to your questions.
Thank you, Chief McPhee. We will now take questions from the reporters joining us today. Due to the number of reporters joining us, we're going to take one round of one question each, and if we have time, we'll do another round. We do have to end by 3 p.m. today. We will start with Dustin Cook from Post Media. Go ahead, Dustin.
Thank you very much. Not sure who my question is specifically for, perhaps Andre. It seems that this plan is really rooted in the Joint Dispatch Center. There was about a 200-page business case, but I didn't see, a concrete timeline on that. Is there a timeline for that joint dispatch operation? The Community Safety and Wellbeing Task Force was calling for it by the end of the year. So when will we see that in action?
Yeah, I thank you for the question, Dustin. I think we're going to see the start of that into action in terms of building it almost immediately. In fact, Chief McPhee and I have already identified the lead for putting that together. We really have to reach out to community, though. We have to understand what community needs to be part of that dispatch center, and it's got to be fully inclusive, of course. So we're going to start immediately in terms of the design, the concepts, the training, the work required. And this is not about a building, it's not about a piece of infrastructure, it's about a culture of getting that joint dispatch. I think we'll start to see progress on that in the coming months, but it'll be a continuous project to make sure we're always enhancing it. And I don't know if Chief McPhee would like to add anything.
Yeah, just to build on that, Dustin, because I think it's a key question, and I would just say it all starts with a call. And right now we have 4 or 5 dispatch centers with different entities in the city, and here's a chance to get the information, put the professionals in that dispatch center to make a right assessment of what services that we should send to the call and perhaps to have the best success. And many times it might be a joint team effort for a safety and say a mental health reason, and at other times it might just be off-ramping to one of our service providers, as Andre said. But till we get that collected right at source of call, we don't have the opportunity to explore and to get those successes early on. So something that we're all hoping to push forward for as quickly as we can. But again, there's obviously some mergers and different things that we need to look at. But first step is to merge the process, and I think that's where we'll get our earliest wins.
Thanks for your question, Dustin. Next up, we'll go to Carlisle Fissette with CTV. Go ahead, Carlisle.
Hi, thanks for taking my question. I won't give it out to anyone specifically. Whoever feels best can answer it. But I guess I'm wondering more about the timeline for this plan and the lead up to it. How much did recent events affect this plan in terms of its timeline and maybe even the specifics of the plan, not just here in Edmonton, but obviously across the country? There have been some issues that I'm sure this plan looks to address.
Yeah, thank you for the question. The recent events have not driven the timeline in any way. We got our orders in terms of timelines to present this report to council when the task force presented their recommendations to council, and that's when we got the direction to come back on the 30th of June, which is what we're doing. I would say, however, that recent events have in fact proven once again that we have to do this work and we have to keep on moving forward, and we have significant challenges and problems out there, and they have certainly reinforced the need for everything we see in this Safer for All report.
Thanks, Carlisle. Next up, we'll go to Tricia Kindelman with CBC. Go ahead, Tricia.
Thanks so much. You touched on a 90-day plan as a part of this. Are you able to go into maybe a bit more detail on what that 90 days might look like going forward?
Yeah, thank you. I mean, the idea is that the actions we're taking to council, we start moving on them. And of course, some things have already been done immediately. And as you may recall from the council motion, they wanted to get us to report back on actions immediately. That's what we're doing now. But we also are going to report back to council in January of 22 in terms of the longer term and a progress report in terms of what we're doing. So that 90-day action sees things like the joint dispatch project moving forward with great clarity in terms of direction from the chief and myself, and other actions that are already in the report. And I would take the opportunity to remind folks that some stuff has already been started. Some things have begun, and we'll continue to work on everything.
Just to complement that, as Andre said, certainly from a police service perspective, we've already rolled out our Community Safety and Wellbeing Bureau. You know, we've hired social workers through our help teams, and we're really starting to work towards better integration with our partners, and that work is ongoing. And there's several good things that should be coming within that first 90 days. So I think it's just going to, as Andre has said, increase our chance for success through using our partners and all of our resources collectively to focus on the same or similar outcomes. So I think you'll see a lot more of that in the days to come, and I'm fairly hopeful that we should be able to move on some of this within the first 90 days.
Our next question will come from Sarah Comedina with Global. Go ahead, Sarah.
Hi, thank you for taking my question. You know, a lot of times when we have these conversations, we hear about it through the presser, but what will we actually see in action when it comes to this plan? Like, what will the general public notice? What kind of differences will they notice when this plan's in action?
Just on that, there's some measurement pieces. I don't have them in front of me here right now, but there's actions that are going to be measured. Obviously, people feeling safer, better connection to services, quicker service. And then you get into things like, obviously, we have to focus on the continuum of services when we talk about our vulnerable population, and mental health is a huge point on that. So for us, going into the police environment, we're hoping to increase our coverage in the PAC teams. We certainly want to expand our coverage with the help teams, perhaps in other areas as well. Better integration when it comes to transit and everything with the city and the peace officers. So a whole bunch of things that will be data-led to the point that are going to see partners kind of all going in the same direction. So these things will be measured, there'll be outcomes set, and it's not just going to be outputs. So a big thing now is just some of the things that we're changing in relation to how we're dealing with encampments, you know, compassion and empathy at the center of that. But we're tackling them as teams. It's going to be meaning less individual actions and more combined actions. But what it's also going to mean is that we're obviously focused on getting the people the service as quick as we can. So hopefully in time, that means a reduction in crime, a reduction in violence. Certainly it was mentioned by the last question, reduction in the hate stuff that we've seen a bit of something that's transpired here over the last few years, and that's had an uptake in other parts of Canada. So all of those things will be measurable items.
Thank you for your question, Sarah. Next, we'll go to Duncan Kinney with the progress report. Go ahead, Duncan.
Hello, and thank you for taking my questions for Chief McPhee. Given the fact that the thin blue line flag has been flown by a terrorist group here in Alberta, and given that it's widely viewed as a hateful, divisive, and even fascist symbol by many, will the EPS follow in the RCMP's footsteps and issue a directive eliminating the wearing of the thin blue line patch while on duty?
Duncan, we already have that. You can't wear the thin blue line patch on duty. So we've done that several years ago. Thanks.
Fantastic. My follow-up's for Mickey Ruth.
Duncan.
Mickey.
We're going to do
one
question each, and then we'll do a second round. So
he gave me a one-sentence answer. Can I have a quick follow-up, please?
Yeah, we can do your follow-up, and then we'll go back to Dustin. Sounds good. Go ahead, Duncan.
Thank you. Mickey, thanks for taking my question as well. Why did you reach out to the Edmonton Police Association and ask them to take down the thin blue line flag, and how did they respond to your request?
Thank you, Duncan. I did reach out to the association, as I do on a number of matters, because we do have good communication with them. We had a discussion. In fact, I did not ask them to take down the thin blue line flag. That That's up to them, that's the association, and we simply discuss matters that the public brings up. Thank you.
Thank you for your questions, Duncan. Next we'll go, Dustin, do you have a second question for us today?
I do. Thank you very much, Chris. I think my question is again for Andre. Andre, the work plan doesn't specifically respond to the 13 recommendations made by the task force and accepted in terms of breaking down what's going to happen for each one. Are you confident that they're all addressed in this work plan?
Yes, I am very confident that they're all addressed. And in fact, I'm going to be meeting with the task force members tomorrow to walk through our plan and to talk about how we've addressed all of their recommendations.
Okay, thank you, Dustin. Carlisle from CTV, do you have a second question for us today?
I think it's been answered in part by the chief, but I'll sort of ask in a different way than it's similar to Sarah Comodina's question. And just in terms of measuring success of this plan, maybe beyond even just statistics and reports to police, how will the city measure success of this plan's implementation?
I think I'll just start by saying we are working on a public-facing dashboard that would show all the measures that we're going to take a look at in terms of how people feel and what their response is to feeling safe and in incidents who responds. And so there will be a public-facing dashboard. I think ultimately Edmontonians are going to be the judges of this plan going forward. And so that's why we're going to have this public-facing perspective showing everything that's been done and what the results are or progress going forward. And Edmontonians will judge this and we'll listen to them. Do you want to add anything? Okay.
Thanks for your question, Carlisle. We'll go to Tricia Kindleman again. Do you have any more questions for us today?
No, I'm okay for today. Thank you.
Thank you. And Sarah from Global, do you have a second question?
Thank you. I'm good though.
Okay. If we have time, does anyone else have any other questions for us today?
Yes.
Okay. Go ahead, Duncan.
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up with Mickey. I was a little confused by your answer. You said you reached out to them about the blue line flag, but you didn't ask them to take it down. What was the nature of the conversation? And what was the response that you got when you brought it up?
We simply have a conversation and we discuss the thin blue line. The discussion was simply to share ideas and there was no decision coming out of it. The thin blue line, the flag is in fact owned by the association nationwide, the U.S. as well. It is not something that is owned by the commission.
Thank you for your question, Duncan.
So do you believe it's appropriate for the EPA to fly the flag then?
There are a number of things that you would take into consideration with this, and we did have a conversation. It's a broader conversation than we can have here. They made their decision. We respect that decision. We will always continue to have conversations, however, as people have perhaps concerns or comments, and that's what we're here for.
Thank you, Duncan. And that will wrap up our media avail today. Thank you to Andre Corbould, Mickey Ruth, and Chief Dale McPhee for joining us today. Have a great afternoon, everyone. Thank you.